In order to find the point of diminishing returns, since that is an inflection point, we need to look at how to find inflection points using Wolfram alpha. The first thing we'll do, actually before we look at that, is first look at finding the second derivative of a function using Wolfram alpha. So it's very similar to our process for finding the derivative, but instead of stating derivative of whatever function, we will want to say second derivative of, and then we could type in our function, which in this case I'll use the function in example 1. So we can get the second derivative of this function, which in this case would be a pretty complicated one to come up with, by just asking Wolfram alpha to find the second derivative of that function. We don't need to do that in order to find inflection points, but some of the homework questions will ask you to find the second derivative along with any inflection points. In order to find the inflection points for a given function, we can just ask Wolfram alpha to find any inflection points for that given function. So in the background, it's going to go ahead and generate each of those different values, looking at the second derivative, determining where are concavity changes from positive to negative. So in this case, we get an inflection point at 32.6002. So rounding that to about the nearest whole number, which is what we'll look at for most of our applications, we have an inflection point at approximately x equals 33. So similarly, we can do this for example 2. We want to find inflection points for this given function. So we just need to update the function. We're still asking for inflection points. And no inflection points were found, which means I probably have a typo in my entry here. And it looks like I do. Instead of this being x squared, that should have been an x cubed. So finding those inflection points, in this case then, would give us an inflection point at 0. So correcting this should be x to the third power, gives us an inflection point at x equals 0. So with Wolfram alpha, finding those inflection points becomes very simple. So again, what we'll be focusing on when we look at these different application questions is coming up with that inflection point, or in some cases multiple inflection points, and then providing an interpretation for those results.